community. This is your buddy Dom, seeking a thread. Recording this one of my last few days at home. I did a stream earlier this week. My mornings are going to be taken up by a new job, which by the time you're seeing this I've probably already started, but in any case, my life is going to get a lot more busy, so I'm trying to get a few videos in. We'll still be working at the record store in the afternoons and up at Cornell University in the mornings to the afternoons. In any case, I wanted to get in a second entry in this Cheap Thrill, the Cheap Heat series I'm trying to keep rolling here. I also want to point out another channel, Daily Local Bandography, turned me on to El Bicho Feo. I'm just realizing I may not be saying that right, but that's a Dave as well, and I just started sort of looking into his videos. He goes pretty deep into prog, fusion, jazz, some avant-garde stuff. I've only seen a few of his videos, but let me get the right handle, and I'll put it in the link below. Some of you probably already know his channel. Anyway, we are listening to not necessarily a Cheap Thrill or a Cheap Heat title. This is probably a $15 to $20 album, I think, though. Gastr Del Sol, Camoufleur, right? Camoufleur, with David Grubbs, his project is on Drag City from the late 90s. It includes members of Tortoise. Jim O'Rourke is on here. Marcus Pop, was he in the note list, I think? But yeah, there's Edith Frost is on here. Rob Mazurek, John McIntyre I mentioned from Tortoise, I believe. And who else? Ken Vandermark. Yeah, great ensemble on this. From 1997. Gastr Del Sol. So we're listening to that. This I acquired in that collection I picked up, which I am still working my way through slowly. I don't have a ton of time. So let's get into it. I have about 10 records here. The first one is Charles Lloyd. I think I briefly mentioned this, but this is a record from 1972, I think 1971. And he made 2 records for Kapp that were kind of supposed to be rock records, although I think the other one on Kapp is called Moon something, and that one's pretty pricey, and that is more of a fusion record. And I listened to that and didn't care for it. This one is unbelievable, and who's on here is even more unbelievable. Dave Mason, John Cipollina, Jesse Ed Davis, Mike Love, Brian Wilson, Carl Wilson, and Al Jardine. They're not on the whole album, they're on some of it. Who else? A ton of other names. It was sort of his attempt at a crossover record, Charles Lloyd. It is called Warm Waters, and it's on the Kapp label. I bought this off eBay for $4, and I don't think there's going to be a run on it. It's so good. It doesn't really touch on jazz so much. Maybe it brings in a little bit of fusion sounds, but it's sort of boundary pushing or sort of expansive rock album with a little bit of jazz textures to it. Charles Lloyd stretching out on this in a big way. You shouldn't have any issue finding this record for under $10 on the. I always love the Kapp label, so look into that one. I say some really surprisingly good. I mean, not surprisingly. That almost sounds like a backhanded compliment, but it's pretty surprising where it goes.
New York was a waiting there. I knew.
Next one, I'm a huge Mission to Burma fan, and I think the Volcano Suns are just unheralded, unappreciated, and deserve your time. Peter Prescott of Mission to Burma started this band. He's the drummer. This is the first record of Bright Orange Years. You can find most of their albums around $8 to $12. I think they're mostly on Homestead, except for the last one, which is on Quarter Stick, where Bob Weston and Steve Albini would be involved. Bob Weston would be in the later incarnation of the band. They're not technically broken up, I think, but they're just not active. If you like Mission of Burma, you need to check out this band. Very much an angular art rock, sort of left of center rock band with Peter Prescott's signature sort of hollering going on. They're one of these records that it's hard to gravitate or pick a track out of it, but it all just sounds really great together. On the Homestead label, like I said, 1985. Here's one from the late 60s, and this is another $8 holler, someone has said. Fireballs, Come On React. Sort of a progressive pop album, I'd say. This is Jimmy Gilmer. They started as Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs, had a hit, I can't think of what it was off the top of my head, but Jimmy Gilmer left the band, and then they just became the Fireballs, and they started making these sort of like studio records. Ooh, top seam split. But this band, I can't think of. They were like a Nashville session group, the Fireballs, and so they made these sort of pop records. But very, very cool ideas on this. But just like a real well produced record. This really sounds like they know what they're doing in the studio. Let's see. We have some. Just to see who's written some of these songs. They didn't write the songs. Buffy St. Marie got a composition on here. Alan Toussaint, Felix Cavalier, Mark Lindsay, and Paul Revere. They didn't look like standards or anything, but in any case, a really good, fun album. This is a promo, if that matters to you. Very cheap. Should be around $5.
Echoing of the music, move emotions in animated space, move emotions of adolescent grace. Open up your mind in expectation, open up your heart in adoration of the music.
Here's another one I bought for $5 or less, and this is a record no one's going to probably know. But one of these records I got into in the CD era in the mid-2000s that I took a chance on, and it knocked my socks off. It's called The Old Haunts. They have a few albums. This is actually a singles compilation, technically. It's on the Kill Rock Stars label. It's called Fallow Field. I believe it's from 2004, 3, 5. Here's the insert. Sort of OCs, before the OCs, a very frenetic, garagey, lo-fi sort of sound. It had really catchy, yelpy lyrics. All my kind of thing. It collects singles between 2002 and 2004, so it probably came out right around then. Their other records are good too, and all cheap. I love this one. Fallow Field, The Old Haunts. Definite cheap thrill, and it shouldn't be hard to find. Find it. Next up, I had this in the pile, but I wasn't going to show it. The Dollar Brand, The Journey. I've been talking a lot about this record, thanks to Stunty. This is a $15 album. You should go, okay, edit. Back with coffee. Alright, a jazz cheap thrill. think I did show this at some point, but I'm going to show it again. Sam Rivers. Collection of live performances from the mid-70s, actually 71 to 73. Various performances, I believe Montreux is some of what's on here. Maid of Volley, a jazz festival. We got stuff from Yale. Is there Montreux? Rochester, Michigan. Oh, it was Montreux. Maybe not. I'm making stuff up. Jazz Workshop, Boston. He had opened up like a club with his wife, I believe. It was in his own loft. So I thought maybe some of the recordings were from there, but no. This also features Cecil McBee, Richard Davis, Albert Anderson, Norman Connors, who sounds amazing on this, the drummer, Lawrence Smith, Barry Altschul, Sam Rivers, Hues. I don't think I said. This is on that Impulse sort of tree label, I call it. I don't know. Is it a tree? Green, blue. I kind of like this label. I don't know. I like it better than the Neon Impulse label, I'll say, from the 70s. Sam Rivers Hues. Should be anywhere from $10 to $15. He's on. I love his flute work on this, as you can see here on the cover. Wonderful. Up next, Sandy Bull, an artist I haven't really talked about, but a big fan. I'm known for his use of the oud. All of his records are pretty inexpensive. The Pluribus e Unum, I think, is more on the pricier side. This one and that one are where he gets a little more experimental and avant-garde. Fantasias and Inventions, also on Vanguard, really good. He does like this long workouts of like a Chuck Berry song, classical compositions. He was sort of marching to the beat of his own drum. As I said, this is on the Vanguard label. Sandy Bull in the mid-70s would actually bring like a 4-track recorder on stage and perform with him and do tape loops on stage. There's some recordings of that, which I actually haven't heard. But this one, Demolition Derby, I upgraded this. I had found my first copy for, at a dollar bin at some point. I think in Vermont. I remember looking through a junk shop in Vermont, Burlington, and finding it and being like, I'm taking this home. But this is an upgrade on the Vanguard label. But that was my first exposure to Sandy Bull from that junk shop. And it literally was a junk shop. I played this on my radio show a few weeks ago, but I haven't talked about it here. This is a record I've had for a long time. It's about 10 years old now, from the FKRWYS collection, or a series on their RVNG International. This is Laraji with the experimental rock group Lose Control. And they met for like a day-long session in, I think it was 2009 or 10, recorded 2010 at Black Dirt Studios. And this features Russ Waterhouse, who is the main, Leah Chow, and Laraji. If you don't know Laraji, most notable for the Ambient 3 record, Day of Radiance, produced by Brian Eno. Laraji has had tons of recordings over the last 30, 40 years. Lots of great new age and ambient records. Day of Radiance is way up there for me. A wonderful record. And this works really well. This says That Healing Feeling on the bottom there. I believe this is another under $10 record. This says the latest installment in the ongoing series from RVNG International that pairs contemporary musicians with those who have preceded them in sound or approach. So this is a nice long meditative and beautiful. They work well together. Blues Control dips into sort of experimental rock and sort of lo-fi ambience, I think. I don't think they're a band anymore, but I've always liked their recordings. Garage record from a modern band. I think this band is already defunct. They're called Apache Dropout. On the Trouble in Mind label with this really kind of cheesy cover. I don't have any. Actually, no, that's not true. I have another record of theirs. They're from Bloomington, Indiana. And these guys are like Rocky Erickson, 13 Floor Elevators followers, but more, less psychedelic, more sort of fuzzed up garage. Some great songs on here, sort of campy, as you can tell by the cover. Bubblegum Graveyard. You know what? I'm going to take this shrink off right now because it sucks. This is not the kind of shrink I like to keep on. There. Everybody happy? This is from 2012. This is one of my favorite. Oh, look at that! A clip and wear mask. It's one of my favorite records from that year. I played this one a ton. I recommend Carrion Fleas or Archie's Army. Quaalude 68. I'll put the song clip in there. I think a lot of you out there would dig this, and I bet this is... I haven't looked this one up. This has got to be a few bucks. I don't know. Trouble Mind label. Russ from Mama's Records did a little feature on that label at one point, and I have a few records on the label, and they're really good.
Change my way, just nothing on me. If you don't want me, why don't you tell me so?
Alright, next one is some 1980s sort of definitely under the radar indie rock. This is Great Plains, also on the Homestead label. Ron House is the man, out of Columbus. I think I ended up paying like $20 for this record, but I think there's copies up between 10 and 15 right now. I love this band so much. Ron House would go on to do a bunch of other bands, and also he was like a local scene stirrer. He worked at record stores in Columbus. I have an attachment to Columbus because my brother lives there, one of my brothers. This is called Naked at the Buy, Sell, and Trade. Letter to a Fanzine is on this, which is their most notable song, I think. What else can I tell you about this? Yeah, this is just, on the punk side of indie rock from the mid-'80s. This is from 1985. And I have their first EP, which mimics I'll have to pull it. It's almost right behind me here. I have their first EP, which mimics the, I think it's Grand Funk, Mark, Don, and Mel, the EP. And I have their other record on Homestead. I just love it. I think I showed this in a cat video. Yeah, because there's a cat on the front. Here's another unsung band from the 80s and still releasing records today, and just put out a new record. 11th Dream Band from Chicago. Yes, you Chicago people will know them. Chris Cole, Alex. You guys will know this band. This was on one of their many records on Atlantic. It's the insert or inner sleeve. Called Beet. There's also a companion mini album called Borscht. This is just like a great... this is just like a, very important indie rock group, I think, from the 80s, sort of preceding a lot of indie rock from the 90s, obviously. Really great guitar sort of twin situation. The main players, you have Douglas McCombs on bass, who's in Tortoise, Rick Rizzo, the guitarist, Janet Beveridge Bean, who also would do Freak Water. She's the drummer. She also sings with Rick Rizzo, and the other Bayard Fiji, guitar and lap steel. I don't know if that person is still in the band, but in any case, this is from 1989. They had a few records before this, which I do have as well. I have a smattering of their records. They would be on Thrill Jockey later on. I love 11th Dream Day, man. I think I bought this for about $8. And look at that, it used the classic Atlantic label. Yeah. I want to say you might not see these records for sale in the US. These are the kind of like indie records that I look for. They're like cheap, but like for some reason, well, probably all the copies in the US, people less interested in selling them here, but they're being sold abroad a lot of the times for like €8 or less. But you know, this is one of those things if you just keep your eyes on. Or like, this is the kind of stuff you'll find at the back of the rock section at some record store that's just been sitting there for years but no one's paying attention to. Always look at don't just look at, by the way, little PSA, do not just go in the record stores and look through their new arrivals. I mean, sometimes we have less time and that's what we do. I go through all of the sections. There's stuff to be found in there. People don't look. That's what I will say. Go through the sections and the various artist sections. Stuff gets misfiled. Just saying. Here's a sort of a soul funk record, but I like to think of this as a sort of almost like an outsider. He had a hit. Timmy Thomas, Why Can't We Live Together? This used to be sealed. I think I bought it for about $12 sealed and I opened it. One of the earliest uses of drum machine. The whole album is with his, I don't think it tells you, like a Yamaha keyboard with like the pre-programmed drum rhythms. But he had a hit on this. Why Can't We Live Together? Yeah, Funky Me. Or no, it's Why Can't We Live Together is the hit. Yeah, and Funky Me is a great instrumental. I used to use that in the back on my radio show for my bad music. On the Glades label, I think from Florida. I forget where he's from. He was like a producer and would also become like a sort of behind-the-scenes music industry guy. This was his like, Why Can't We Live Together? It was like his one hit. It's a great, soulful sort of like, very hard on your sleeve sort of ballad, but just with the drum, the sort of stock drum machine is sort of what gives us so much character, I think. But the whole record is like that, super sort of lo-fi sounding and DIY, but just to have it be a hit like that, really interesting. On the Glades label, there it is. I love that label. And that is all I have for my cheap thrills, cheap heat. Number 2. I have more even lined up. I wrote down a whole bunch. We'll do another one of these another time. Hope you enjoyed the sound clips that I believe are inserted in. And stay tuned for a new vinyl in my life, and I'm going to start my psych series very soon. Those are my next happenings, as long as I can find time with this new work schedule. So I hope everyone is well out there. Hope you're doing well. And I will see you next time. See ya.
Why can't we